Hi guys, welcome. Good evening to all of you. I have someone very special here today. Someone who is from your city and someone whom I've had the pleasure to know since a long time. Welcome guys, Jaydeep from Rebel Foods to D2C Insider. And thanks a lot, Jaydeep, for finally making it. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
Guys, I think he deserves a big applause for what he's built with Rebel. Great.
Thank you.
So I'm sure all of you are audience, all of you are consumers of Rebel with Faasos and all the other brands which have followed. I think Jaydeep is someone who's very, he calls himself a reluctant rebel, right? So I think it's great to finally have Jaydeep here to share his story. And I'm sure all of you would have a lot of insights and learnings from his journey. It's been a 15-year journey, guys. So compounding is for real. And I think this session, we will try and decode some part of his journey on what were the key learnings, how he came up with Rebel, actually Faasos initially, right? Originally it was called Faasos, and which now became Rebel. What were the challenges? What were the learnings? What would he go back and change and do better? And Jaydeep, this is a whole audience of about 150 founders building in the D2C space from Pune. And all of them are here to learn from each other and network, and all of them are here to grow their businesses. Most of them are building a D2C brand or an enabler. It could be a service provider, it could be a SaaS company building for D2C. So I think all of them would look forward to learnings from you. And I think more than learnings, the reason we host this generally, and the reason I was trying to get you since so long, what I've seen in the community is that a lot of us read about stuff in the media, right? And we make our preconceived notions कि यार Rebel तो बहुत बड़ी company है, Jaydeep is like a rock star, right? But when they actually come and see you, right, and they hear from you, they actually realize कि यार अपने जैसा ही है, right? It's the same struggles, it's the same journey. So why, if he can do it, then we can also do it. So I think that inspiration is very, very important. It just gives entrepreneurship is such a lonely journey, and it just gives you that, that push or that nudge that hey, we can also do it. It just, the difference is maybe few years back you were there, now you are here, and that cycle goes on, right? That entrepreneurship cycle goes on. So welcome to D2C Insider, and look forward to this session, Jaydeep.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So guys, before we start, and just to let you know, I will open this up for Q&A. So I'm sure a lot of you have some questions. I'll just take half an hour to ask him few questions which I had in mind. And before I start, Jaydeep, would be great for the audience to know your background. Where do you come from? How come Pune? Because you are based out of Pune, but I understand you are from Kolkata, right? I'm also from Kolkata, guys, born and brought up in Kolkata. But maybe if you can just take 2 minutes to tell the audience about your background, McKinsey and then Rebel, how did all of that happen? Would be great for the audience to get some context on who you are.
Yeah. So I think reticent rebel would be a better word than reluctant, because I don't know, I've not done many of these things, so you got to pardon me if I'm saying things that are not appropriate or whatever.
No, absolutely. The audience here is very, very
yeah,
cool.
the first thing I would say is, I come from Calcutta, I am a Bengali, and someone told me once Bengali entrepreneur is an oxymoron, because Bengalis are typically the laziest. My parents were teachers, so there was no concept of profit at home, more poetry than profit, a lot of food. So that's how, I grew up. Football was a core thing when I grew up. Egg rolls used to be the go-to food. There were more egg roll shops than...
Like a daily staple.
Yeah, daily staple. I still remember there were shops right outside our school and so on. So that's where I come from. No business background, typical middle class family, typical Indian, sort of engineering, and then work took me to different places. Actually, Pune was my first. That's why I came. I still remember the first auto ride I took from the railway station in Pune to give an interview at Brain Visa. The founder was Supam, who runs First Cry now.
So that's the
connection.
That's the Atul connection.
In fact, Brain Visa spawned many entrepreneurs. Anand comes from Brain Visa, and back then, back in 2000-ish, It was a company which is built by these 2 3 guys, and and I came here. I still remember the auto ride, the climate, and everything. Things have changed now, but I just fell in love with the city, and so I stayed back, and then went on to do my MBA, and then post that I was with McKinsey for about 4 years in their London office after my MBA from INSEAD, and then 2010-11 is when I started thinking about what to do with my life. I wanted to come back because my daughter was just born. I wanted her to grow up in India rather than in the UK. And while working at Brain Visa, we had put a hole in the wall shop in Dole Patil Road just because we missed egg rolls. So we got a cook. In fact, my father stood outside of the, like, I don't know, 50 roll shops and found a cook who was good enough, and brought him here. And that was a side gig that was going on, while I was doing my MBA and everything. And then a couple of other people used to run it when we were not away. We were away.
Was it called Faasos back then?
That was called Faasos. I don't know. I mean, this group is too young, I guess, to remember that. But a lot of people, even today, tell me that during their college days, a lot of people used to frequent Faasos back then. So yeah, that's how it started. When I came back, we picked it up, made it full time. My wife said she cannot live in Bombay, and I was already in love with Pune. And there was this, I think, India's best and cheapest girls' school in Pune, St. Mary's. I don't know how many of you know. So my daughter, somehow got into that 300 rupee, monthly fees, 150-year school. So all the boxes ticked, and that's how we started back in 2011. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So it was your love of the Calcutta rolls which you were missing here, which made you start Faasos. And I think great brands start from a deep customer insight, right? So sometimes we all think about ideas, and then we think, यार कोई नहीं कर रहा क्योंकि शायद नहीं need होगी. But I think the guy who actually goes ahead and does it for their own need, and eventually it becomes, eventually you realize that this is a need for a lot of people. So I think a lot of great ideas start from that, right? And you might think, yeah, the guy must be so intelligent, right, to think about starting Rebel Foods, right, and ahead of the curve, right? But it all came from a very basic idea, right? Yeah, I'm missing my food here, right? So I think the difference is just doing it, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a testament, and obviously then keeping at it. I think that's another thing. Starting the role and then keeping at it for the last 15 years and compounding it. So that's an amazing story, Jaydeep, and I think it's so simple. Just to think about it, it's so simple, and it's so non-brainer that no one would actually think about it. So amazing, amazing journey. And guys, 3 cheers to Pune. I think he mentioned a lot of good things about Pune, and do you now consider yourself a Puneite?
Pretty much, though my Marathi is still like really iffy, but yeah, I mean, it's a lovely place.
Very hard to convert a hardcore Bengali into a Puneite. What do you think, guys? Yeah, great. So that is how the start of Faasos happened. And I remember back then, maybe I'm of that school where I used to order Faasos back then. And I remember once I had spoken to you and you told me that, yeah, in food, the insight is someone who has the same role for more than like 3 months or 4 months gets very used to it, right? And then you want something new. I think that was the genesis of you trying more brands, if I'm not wrong. So if we just continue the journey from that role to now Rebel Foods as a platform, how did that transformation happen?
Well, I think I would say there were 3 sort of pivotal moments in our journey. The first one was pure survival, like the roll shop, which is Faasos, was doing well in terms of customer love, everything, but we were not making money. We were really losing money. I mean, it was probably the toughest period of my life, of my business's life. So by around 2014-15, we had about 50 outlets.
50.
50. Pune, Bombay, some in Bangalore. But they were not making money. The reason was, and later on, it was hindsight, but there are some heuristics that I have realized over the last 15 years. So the first one is the difference between India and US is in India, labor is cheap, real estate is costly. In the US, labor is costly, real estate is cheap. And that actually, with that insight, actually explains a lot of things that have happened in these two countries, like quick commerce, dark stores. It happens in India. Our model is not there in the US. In the US, McDonald's has 70% of their revenue in drive-through. Why? Because they could keep big places, real estate is cheap. Why drive-through? Because you have to drive it because labor is costly.
Right.
What is delivery? Delivery is drive-through. Someone else is doing it, fundamentally. So you can have a small, dark store somewhere, back alley or whatever. Someone else comes and picks it up and delivers. That's what happens in India. It doesn't happen in the US. The core insight is this. In India, labor is cheap, infra is costly, and US it's ulta. And it was happening to us on the high street because we started with high street stores. Our rent to revenue ratio was like 20-30%. It was impossible. Globally, if you think developed world, for restaurants, rent to sales ratio is 5%. Like Domino's in the US is 5%. Domino's in India is 12%. So it's twice more expensive. And because we didn't have big, deep pockets or whatever, our money was running out, we had to find an angle in this to survive. And then the idea of a kitchen came through this. And delivery was growing. So we did a survey of our customers back in 2014 and asked them, have you ever been to a Faasos store? I remember some 65-70% people say they have not been to a Faasos store but got it delivered.
Right.
So that gave us the first idea that we could try a kitchen. Our first kitchen was in Marol, in Bombay.
Marol, yeah. So before that, you were delivering from your store.
From our store, exactly.
And majority of the business was delivery already.
Already delivery. People are not visiting because, India has this, like in Bombay, we had a store next to university on Kalina, like a hellhole. Right? It's a 24-hour traffic jam. People don't step out, people get delivered and things like that. So that was the first idea. It started working because delivery we could afford a larger space. Our product became better, etc. So that was first pivotal moment. The second one is actually the central insight of Rebel Foods. And I believe whatever business you are building, and this has been my big learning, that every business has to be built on an unobvious central insight. And that insight is usually about a contradiction in this world.
Unobvious. That's why it's unobvious.
That's why it's unobvious. And that can open the door. It is not like, everybody is doing AI, let me also do AI. Where is the central insight? So the central insight in our business was, you referred to it, food is the only consumer category where people go from value to luxury, single serve to group serve, everything. Like we all have 20 rupee chai and go to a fine dine restaurant or, go for sushi or, whatever. Call up friends. Food is so dynamic.
Variety, basically.
Variety and also like mission driven. Like for example, we have a 2x2. There are a lot of 2x2s at Rebel because of my lineage, I guess.
That's the McKinsey thing.
Probably. One axis is single serve, group serve. The other axis is value and luxury. So a weekday lunch is value and single serve. Quick, 100 rupee, done. Group serve luxury, weekend dinner. You call friends or go out. Group serve value is your office snacks, samosa, pizza. Single serve luxuries, sometimes you want to have a sushi or whatever, like Lebanese and things like that. And people move between these things. Same person. This is not true for any other consumer goods. Like if you're driving a Mercedes, you're not driving a Maruti.
Right, right.
If you are wearing a Armani shirt, you are not wearing a t-shirt like this, right? That's why consumer goods companies were built on customer segments, premium, mass, blah, blah.
Agency, basically.
Right. And food, customers are not segment, their use cases are. But if you think about the food companies, restaurant companies, they're one product companies. So as a result, in a country like India, where diversity is so much, biryani changes every 100 miles. There is Onam. Like as a Bengali, I never knew there were 2 Navratris in India and entire country goes vegetarian. I'm like, first time it happened to us, sales tanked and we were like, what's happening? And somebody told me it's Navratri. I say, okay, there is a concept. And then things like Karwa Chauth. Earlier women would not be having food till 9. Now even husbands don't because of solidarity or whatever. So they're like massive amount of diversity, dynamism. But the food companies are very static. So the idea was, if you have a kitchen, and why food companies are static? Because brands are coupled with a real estate. So you have a McDonald's store or a Domino's store. You can't sell, Navratri thali from a Domino's store, right?
Right.
So if you decouple the real estate from the brand, which is what was the central insight, that we have a kitchen and not a store. So now we can do Faasos, we can do pizza, we can do biryani, we can do Navratri thali, whatever. Because our home kitchens are versatile, right?
Absolutely.
So fundamentally. So that got us down the path that we've been for the last, let's say, 10 odd years. And then the third insight was, while we are doing it, it became very difficult to manage supply chain, etc., kitchen operations as we were adding brands. So we had to rethink the entire tech stack. So today we have what we call a Rebel operating system. Today it's easy for us to plug brands because we built it over time. Like not only our own brands, now today we have the license for Wendy's, world's second largest burger brand for India. ITC MasterChef, Nationals Ice Cream, Papa John's, Pretty Monje, these brands operate out of our kitchens. People don't know this. We have
Naturals ice cream.
Yeah.
Nationally.
Like for example, you order from Swiggy, Zomato, chances are it's coming from a Rebel kitchen.
Nationally.
It's about 100 locations.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So, but once you have the operating system, you can have your own brands, you can have licensed brands. We've acquired Smoor, the Bangalore chocolate cake brand. People who know Bangalore, they know Smoor. We own 70% of that company. So once the operating system was in place, we could add brands not only from our own stable, but also from universe. So that has been the journey so far. Yeah.
Amazing. So guys, starting with one pain point of not getting roles in Pune to building a platform which can transform food as an industry. The idea has to be non-obvious, but it looks very obvious.
Yeah, but
right?
if you think about 150 years of restaurants were built fundamentally where US. QSR as a concept was built in the US. US is very homogenic. Like, my favorite burger brand in the US is In-N-Out. I don't know how many, if you have tried it. 75-year-old company, one patty. That's it. Recently they launched 2 patties, double patty. So, because US is very homogenic, that's why QSR got, was birthed. But India is a different beast, and so the dynamism of food, people have not done it because everybody thinks that what happened in the US will happen in India, but we sort of realize, that's not how it is. So.
Amazing. I think that's a very, very core insight and a very strong insight. But all of us have so many ideas.
In fact, I was going through the D2C today, the chat, the WhatsApp chat. Someone said he's doing millet cookies for 10 rupees.
Yeah, who is it, guys? Are you here? Millet cookies? Okay.
Anyway, maybe he's not here.
It's him.
Millet snacks, yeah.
Okay.
Millet snacks for 10 rupees. But I think, someone told me, the minimalist founder told me the central insight of India is 3 A's, like awareness, availability, affordability. Given Instagram, social media, etc., people are aware of everything. So you go to the tier 3 city, some obscure town, people know everything in the world. They know what millet is. They know,
In the US, we are saying.
in India.
Okay.
And we are seeing it ourselves. So the awareness is 100%. The problem with India is availability and affordability. The moment you make something affordable, like Parle-G, it's a $2 billion revenue brand selling 10 rupee biscuits for 50 years. So the unobvious insight is that people know you have, when you make it affordable, they will buy. If you stay in your bubble and say, okay, I'll build some big premium brand, I mean, that can also happen. That needs to have some other insight. So central insights are very important, I think, to build anything, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's all about the core insight, right? Because without that, you are just trying to be something which others are already, right? And that's I think the whole definition of a startup is a startup does something which has not been done, right? Otherwise, our right to win or a right to play does not exist, right?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine someone like you coming and disrupting the food industry. You have no background in food, right? You would have never done it unless you had an insight which was different from the whole industry.
Yeah.
And that's why it has to be non-obvious. But how was it? I mean, in hindsight, it seems obvious now, right? But back then, it was obviously non-obvious. And I'm sure for a long time, people kept on saying कि यार ये क्या कर रहा है, ये तो कभी हो ही नहीं सकता. अरे ये कौन करता है डार्क स्टोर, खाना थोड़ी ऐसे डिलीवर होता, हम तो 50 साल से खाना बना रहे हैं, हमें पता है खाना कैसे होता है. So I'm sure all of us go through that, right? And especially if you're trying to do anything non-obvious, that's the first reaction. And not just the industry. I think it's your peers, it's your VCs, everyone, right? Especially in India, right? Because I think one difference between India and the US, Jaydeep, is that US, the ecosystem supports a lot of moonshot ideas, right? In India, that has not been the case. But I think examples like yours and minimalist is also. I think you mentioned minimalist. I think that's also another great example of that, right? Doing something non-obvious and then creating a success story out of it, so that the next guy who thinks about doing something non-obvious, अगर उसको बोला जाता है कि भाई ये नहीं हो सकता, तो कहेगा यार इसने भी किया ना.
But if you think about it, a favorite 2x2 of mine is it's written by Howard Marks, an investor. That on one axis, people agree, people don't agree. You are wrong, you are right. Which box gives you the abnormal return?
Yeah, I saw your post on that. Yeah.
So it's where you are right and people don't agree.
Yes.
Like if you think about stock picking, share markets, I don't know, people are investors. Which investors make money? If they are buying stocks that everybody agrees are great stock, already it's expensive. But when people don't know and you have an insight about a stock, you know something, not insider trading, but you know about it.
Right.
You have an idea and you bet on it before anyone else. That's when abnormal return happens. That's a fact of life, investment,
Absolutely.
business. And the thing is, sometimes people get ego driven in the sense that, okay, I am right. But that you saying I am right has to be backed by evidence that many people may not have, but you have. You know in your bones that I am right and people are not agreeing with me, but one day they will. That's where abnormal returns come from.
But did you know that back then that you were right?
See, that's why I'm saying, there are two ways to stay. I mean, it's not as simple as this.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but couple of things. So one is, there's this saying that you have to have a vision. You have to be rigid on your vision, but flexible on your path. So if I'm ego driven, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to do this and whatever happens, I'm right. Always not being flexible, that's a problem. So I have to be flexible. But food is dynamic. It's a fact. I mean, if you really think about it, it's not something that you have to be convinced about. It's a fact. There is evidence that if you think about our own food journey, we do it all the time. Lunch pay, we order some, quick meal. Weekend we go out. It's a fact. I don't have to say it. But the unobvious insight was that now there is no other company who is addressing all these missions because they're stuck with real estate. That also is a fact.
True.
So there is no rigidity. But now how to execute? Obviously, we have to be flexible. You have to have a great team, great culture to execute on that insight. And say, okay, we know that this is true and we will execute on this. So the insight is the starting point, but the execution is the
Absolutely.
the big thing, right? So
yeah. I'll come on the team aspect later on in our chat. I think that's a very important point. But yeah, I think if you're very clear on your insight and you're confident on it, I think the biggest challenge there is just sticking to it. because the whole world, and I'm sure you would have experienced it.
Yeah.
I used to hear back then कि यार ये तो पैसा burn कर रहे हैं. With quick commerce also, right? People kept saying quick commerce चाहिए ही नहीं, क्यों चाहिए, किसको चाहिए, नहीं चाहिए, पैसा burn कर रहे हो, ये कर रहे हो, वो कर रहे हो. Eventually, I mean, you will be right eventually, right? But in that journey, everyone will be a naysayer, and they'll try and tell you कि यार you think you are very smart, right?
You know, there are a couple of other things I have realized, that there are different types of pains in building a company. One of the pain is being written off. Your investors write you off. You know, Janta writes you off. But actually, I've realized that being written off is a moment of freedom. Because then, you know, you can do whatever you think is right. You know, because it's written off. Nobody expects anything from you. You know? That's why brats eventually do something incredible, because people write off brats. You know? This guy won't be able to do something. And then the guy goes and does something incredible. So being written off is actually a blessing. In fact, I would say, if you are in an industry where a lot of VC money is flowing, like quick commerce, everybody is after it, AI, everybody is after it. It's a big problem, because you will have 1,000 copycats, because everybody understands what you are doing. VCs will go after everybody. They will put like 20 bets. Everybody will have $1 billion. Everybody will burn. And it's like whoever has the maximum capital. For me, personally, that's not, that doesn't excite me. And because I don't know whether I'll be the last man standing or, whatever. So being written off is actually
A luxury in that sense.
a luxury in that sense. Because
You have your time.
yeah, right now, Zepto is on a treadmill. Investors expecting, public market expecting, employees expecting.
Absolutely. Amazon coming after it, everything.
Amazon coming after it. Think about it. We were misunderstood, so we had a 7-year journey where nobody copied us. No VC money came into cloud kitchens or whatever operating system. Great.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very easy, Jaydeep, but it takes a lot of guts and a lot of self-confidence to be able to go through that. We all seek validation. We are humans, right? So we
Yeah.
all seek validation. I think why is Shark Tank such a great platform?
See,
Because
I
it gives
think
you validation.
one thing I would say is, now the validation are two types, internal or external. The internal validation is the customers are coming back. Customers, your cohorts are growing, your unit economics improving. We had that validation. Yeah. Without that validation, that gives the confidence.
You were seeing the data. You knew that majority is delivery.
Like-
you knew that people are
Yeah.
repeating in different categories. Or I remember you telling me once back then, or I think Anand told me, that the retention in Faasos was a problem back then, right?
Because people don't have egg rolls every day.
Absolutely. So that was the insight on doing more brands.
Yep.
So I think it was a very organic journey, and you basically followed the trail, right?
And we were mostly till about 2022, just about COVID, we were mostly a metro company, like Bangalore, Bombay, etc. Around 2022, right after COVID, we started opening tier 2. And a gold mine opened up. Today we are in 120 cities. Our highest volume kitchen is in Banaras.
Wow.
And, yesterday we opened Bahadurgarh. I don't even know exactly where it is. So, these are data. We don't need someone.
Yeah, this is also non-obvious, right?
So,
People who had said, "ये तो Delhi, Bombay में चल सकता है." This is not a pan-India phenomena.
the unobvious insight on this, that in tier 2, India doesn't have brands in any case. Like
Options ही
branded
नहीं है, variety नहीं है.
और भी कम है. बांद्रा में तो फिर भी सब लोग हैं.
Right.
But बनारस में कोई नहीं है.
Absolutely.
And people have enough disposable income with growing. And we are talking about a 300 rupee, 400 rupee product. We are not talking about lakhs of rupees.
Right.
So that's why distribution plays, like quick commerce doesn't work in tier 2, because it's the same brand you are bringing, giving 10-minute service. But when we open Banaras, we are bringing Behrouz, Oven Story, new brands, Wendy's, to a starved market.
Yeah, you're creating access to brands which did not have that access.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Amazing. I think the best journeys are which come organically and come from your own internal insights and not external validation कि चलो AI hot है तो AI बना लेते हैं, है ना? अगर D2C brand में सब लोग quick commerce कर रहे हैं तो हम भी quick commerce कर लेते हैं. Because like you said, वहाँ पे तो bloodbath चल रहा है. all the VC money is going towards that only. So you are going to probably not sustain yourself there, right? Amazing.
VC money plus distribution expectation.
Right.
Distribution has to make money,
Right.
you know. So earlier, you know, for D2C brands, the rent seekers were Google and Meta. Now the rent seeker is Zepto and Blinkit,
Right.
you know,
Right.
because they would have
Absolutely.
30%, 40%, whatever.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So once you had this core insight and then you went about executing it, you saw results. Obviously, it was tough. It was long period. You had to persevere, but eventually you cracked the code, right? Then
I can't say I've fully cracked, but we are
the model
there.
worked, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's obviously still work in progress. But my question is coming more from now. If I've discovered gold, my immediate thought would be now let's replicate it in more places, right? If it works in India, what are the similar markets like India, right? So I'm sure you went that path also. And I remember in between you opened a lot of markets, right? Would you like to share with the audience how that worked and what was the thought
See,
behind that?
again, that's the core structural thing I mentioned at the beginning: low labor cost, high real estate cost. So the market has to have these characteristics for our model to work. So, and obviously, if the labor infrastructure cost is also low, that's better. But the low labor cost has to be a
Because the whole model relies on delivery.
because it's outsourced drive-through. You know, that's how I think about delivery. So, without this insight, we would go to Australia or US, etc. But we understood, on time, and we made some mistakes on time that's not going to work. So that's why the first market that really did well for us outside India was UAE. And UAE is best of both worlds. It's low labor cost, low infrastructure cost. And at a per kitchen level, it is supremely profitable because of high disposable income and so on.
You said low labor cost and
Low infrastructure cost also.
infrastructure cost in Dubai would not be high?
Not like in the US or
Okay.
not as a rent to sales ratio, not like in India.
Okay. Okay.
Typical rent to sales ratio for a restaurant in UAE is below 10%.
Okay. Okay.
Because why India infrastructure cost is high? Because there are not many places in supply. Like you walk down this road, how many places you can put up a restaurant?
Organized retail did not come up that big.
And in Dubai, it's
Right.
plenty.
That's why in the US also it's low because
That's why
organized retail
US is
so
also
big.
low. Singapore is low. All these places are low.
Right. Wherever
But-
organized retail is high.
Yeah. But in Dubai has the advantage of low labor cost. So that market really worked well for us. So, I actually saw there is one other market where we put some money invested, which is Latin America. So I actually saw a pitch deck where these two Harvard Business School, like one girl and one boy, they were Colombians. So they sent a pitch deck to their investors saying they want to build the rebel foods of
Okay. How did
LATAM.
you get that deck?
And then that deck came to me from somewhere, some investor connection, etc.
Okay.
And then I reached out to these guys and, we had a chat. And about 3 years back, we put some money into them. And that is also a terrific market. It's somewhere in between India and US, low labor cost, high infrastructure cost, supply is not great, etc. So now these guys have about 100 kitchens in Lima, in Peru, Bogota, and Mexico City. So that's another market, but it's too far for us to do it ourselves. So, we thought
sense.
we'll put some money there.
Got it. No, I think that's amazing. I think this is one of the business models which are unique to India, which you have been able to discover. And there are a lot of adjacent markets which have similar characteristics. So why not? I think one of the things with entrepreneurship in India has been, we have always imported entrepreneurship from Valley and then China, right? So it's time India exports entrepreneurship. I think Oyo is one example of that. And with D2C space also, I believe, a lot of our D2C brands will become global.
Like something like the Whole Truth.
Whole Truth, yes.
It's amazing. It's ex-Rebel, by the way. So I
was
say
coming to
that name
Yeah.
with pride. What they have done, like in the US, bar companies were bar companies. This X bar or whatever. But he created that was the central insight again. That FMCG or the big food companies, Unilever, whatever, they were selling junk to people and hiding behind the label. So his tagline is, his mission is, bring back world's faith in food. What a beautiful insight. That now, and he has an infinite canvas. And I don't think a brand like that is there in the US. I mean, as much as I know. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think one of the vision for D2C Insider when we came together and started the group was we are the disruptors, we are the challengers, we want to change status quo. And why can't Indian brands become global? So I think it's work in progress. It's still very early days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there are certain
Royal Enfield probably is a great
I think
example.
there's a lot of source of origin advantage India has when it comes to food specifically. For example, spices. I think yoga has been taken from India and branded in the US, right? So why can't we take spices and brand it and sell it? That's the whole idea. And I think journeys like Rebel actually, again, open up doors for entrepreneurs because the first thing you want to do this and the first thing you hear is, यार तुम कैसे बनाओगे टॉमी हिलफिगर? वो तो यूएस से बनता है ना, राइट? नहीं बनता है भाई, इंडिया से नहीं बनता, राइट? So बन सकता है. I think that's the whole point. I think the good thing about entrepreneurship as a cycle is that when you do it and you succeed, when minimalist comes out from Jaipur, then there are 100 more people who want to build another minimalist, which is also bad because there's a lot of Me Too's also come in because they only see the success. They don't see the hard work and the sweat and the inside behind it, right? But I think it's a net positive. And I think we need more success stories. I think India has changed from the time you have started to now. I'm sure you are seeing the change. How entrepreneurship, like this room, could you imagine in Pune we would have 150 founders just from one vertical in D2C, right? So I think it's a net positive. And I hope that Rebel can take this to more and more countries. I would say that even, someday we should figure out how this can work in the US, maybe, right? Because
we are running a small experiment in London.
Okay.
Which is we are going to existing restaurants because there the labor cost is very high.
Right.
And we are telling them that we give you the SOP, etc. You use your kitchen, your existing labor to launch virtual brands. We launched Behrouz in 40 locations.
Okay.
Using this model, an existing restaurant, which has a high street presence.
And no one knows the brand.
Huh?
No one knows the brand there.
Like, Behrouz no one knew.
Absolutely.
But when I lived in London for some time, the biryani really sucked. Like really bad. Every nook and cranny you'll have an Indian restaurant, but the biryani is the worst thing that you can have in London. And when we are seeing early traction on that. So it's still early days, but
Superb.
Again, decoupling real estate from the brand.
Absolutely.
So
great. No, so I think till now it's been a great learning for all of us on how do we, back our insight and how do we execute it. If you know, Sashank was a EIR with Rebel Foods. And
Revant.
Revant is another example of that. And I'm sure many more would have organically grown and now lead businesses. I think Sagar was also an EIR. He was the CMO.
Not the Biryani. No.
Okay. But I remember meeting Sagar. He was the CMO back then. Then he became a founder.
The Boxit founders were interning.
Right. And Boxit then created also M Caffeine, by the way. So M Caffeine founders used to work in Boxit. So this is entrepreneurship. This is the network effect of entrepreneurship, right? So I would like you to talk a bit about talent, right? How do you look at talent? Because the founder has a vision. You have a clear insight. You know it is true. The world doesn't believe in it. You want to execute it out, but you can't do it alone, obviously, right? I think that's the last missing part, right? The talent part, right? How did you go about, building that talent pool and convincing others, in the team that this is the mission and this is doable? Because you might believe in it, but others also need to believe in it. I think EIR was one of your hack of attracting entrepreneurial people who wanted to be, who wanted to break the status quo. Was that one of the hack? So
it started,
Yeah, would be great if you talk about that.
So actually back in 2012, we had hired a few people from Domino's, etc. But it was not working out because, people from the industry always come with a lot of baggage, etc. And I don't want to say they were wrong or whatever, but it was just not working out in the sense that the challenging the status quo, that mentality was not there and so on. So that's when, out of frustration, I wrote an email saying that we are looking for folks who have that hunger and, just a couple of years out of school or college and want to build something. The good thing was Sequoia had invested in us, so I could, bandy the brand name a little bit, saying that we are a Sequoia funded company. By that time, by the way, Sequoia was saying, what the hell are you doing? Right? Anyways, but But that attracted, I remember, some 100 or maybe 200 applications. And from there, we selected 8 people. And it all started from there. So that's the real founding moment of Rebel, that when these 8 people joined, all like 20-year-old, 20 plus some years old. One of them is now Rebel CEO. So I became chairman last year. Ankush is Rebel CEO. Shashank and Revant and Adarsh moved on and started, like Adarsh is Fable Street. He's a co-founder.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Revant, Mosaic Wellness, and Shashank. The other 2 just left Rebel to start their, like 3 months back, to start their own ventures. So it all started from there. And so the remaining 2 are still there. One is our COO, the other is our Chief People Officer. So that vintage actually started, the Rebel culture, as we call it. And over time, we codified it. Like, for example, at Rebel, you can never just send your CV. If you apply, you have to write certain things, etc. We created a culture deck which we sent to every applicant. Now, what is it that I have understood and Rebel has understood over the years is that there are two types of people in this world. One type is people with founder mentality. That person doesn't have to be a founder, but founder mentality. And then there is CV mentality. CV mentality has people who are always polishing their CV. If you look at their LinkedIn profile, you will see, ex McKinsey, ex Google, or whatever, like 40 under 40, always like building the CV. But then there is the other group, which I call founder mentality. This is the group and 3 characteristics. And now it's codified at Rebel. We look for this. So the first is that they are mission driven. So they're purpose driven. So if you tell them that this is the core purpose of the business, they get excited, So founders typically are purpose driven, right? So that's
Absolutely.
why founder mentality. So purpose driven, they challenge the status quo. Like something is happening in a particular way, but why? They ask questions, things like that. So that's one. Second is, they have an owner's mindset. Our owner's mindset is, this is my company and I treat it as my company, which means I don't splurge. I don't, I stay grounded. I don't exploit per diem, things like that. You can see these things, Ownership. If I make a mistake, I own up to the ownership. I don't blame 20 other things. So that's owner's mindset. And the last is frontline obsessed. So I care about our customers, care about people on the ground. I roll up my sleeves and go to the ground. I don't stay in one place. These are the 3 things. And this created 7 values at Rebel. Every interview, this is checked. Any interview, the last round is a bar raiser on these 7 values.
Like Amazon.
Yeah, some of these ideas came from Amazon and many other companies. But we used it, and also, see, a lot of companies have values, It's written on a poster or an email signature. But the only way to instill values is when you hire, when you performance manage, when you fire, using these values. So when we performance manage, someone's quarterly appraisal will be based on performance, but also on values. So everybody at Rebel knows on this 2x2 performance and founder mentality, where that person is. The top ones are stars of our company. High performance, high founder mentality. The bottom right are the low performance but high founder mentality. So they can be groomed, maybe taken to another job, maybe got a wrong profile, wrong job, maybe change roles. Try to push them up. But there are people who are high performance but low on founder. We call them brilliant jerks, And eventually these people get out of Rebel, And so when you do it year after year, appraisal cycle after appraisal cycle, then the entire company, this density of founder mentality people becomes strong. And then they attract similar people. And that's how, like you're saying, founders, entrepreneurs create entrepreneurs. Founder mentality people create.
Absolutely.
Founder. And if you really think about, today world's 5 biggest companies, by market cap. Nvidia, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Google. Two out of these are run by founders. 3 out of those are run by people who had founder mentality. Pichai, Nadella, Tim Cook. They joined 20 odd years back. And then they showed that mentality. They picked up stuff, got shit done. So the great thing about founder mentality people is eventually, ironically, they have the best CVs. They're not building CVs.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But like tomorrow, Shashank goes out and starts his company, I'll be the first investor.
Absolutely.
So it all adds up, not only from a company perspective, but also from that person's perspective.
Yeah, and I think Tim Cook is a great example because he actually took Apple to 10x of
90% of Apple's value was created by this
absolutely.
man.
People wrote off Apple's when Steve Jobs passed away, right? Saying, yeah, Tim Cook doesn't have that vision, right? But he was part of the system for a long time. So yeah, I think that's a great example. And I think sometimes we founders are also very overrated. We tend to think that, we are the people, like only we can run it.
Bezos left. In fact, even Amazon. Andy Jassy was he was his chief of staff.
Yeah, he was
25 years back.
Then he ran AWS.
Yeah, ran AWS. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think the job of a leader is to create more leaders, right? Because I think the kind of insight and the kind of vision you had, Jaydeep, it was too big, right? To replicate this in so many cities, across so many brands. And I think we're not spoken about the brands, but we'll come to that. But no man can do it alone, right? So I think the key here was the insight and then the talent. To be able to attract that right talent and says go and throw money at it. I don't think that talent can't be replicable. It's a non-replicable moat, I would say. Platform also can, I think to some extent, can be replicable, right? Insight can be replicable because if you have insight and I can copy your insight and I can out-execute you, it can be replicable, right? But talent is something which will help you in in compounding.
It's a foundational moat.
Absolutely. So I think that is something which you should talk more about, I think, because most founders actually, we all become, our own barrier, sort of, right? Because we are also very passionate. So we are also very, very, at least I feel that I'm a micromanager, right? Because I'm so passionate about what I want to do. So everything has to be right. Everything has to happen at the right time. And I think that's when the downfall also happens because you can't do it all. Like this whole event, I can't run this event. It's Puneet, I don't know where he is, but Puneet is the guy running this whole event, right? And so many volunteers and everyone, right? So I think you also need to get the people whom you think are as passionate as you. I think it's easier said than done. I'm not sure how you actually got those 8 people. Would you like to talk about that? Like that email triggered?
Interviews, and Kallol and I, Gaurav knows Kallol, my co-founder. We took 3-4 interviews. So first of all, they had to, no CVs were allowed. Anybody who sent a CV, straight reject.
Got it.
So people, we were not well known, researched about us, thought about that. ChatGPT was not there back then.
Intent shows.
So nobody could write using AI. So people wrote by themselves. So,
right. And saying that, profile building is now a thing with founders also, Jaydeep, right? Maybe you're not in that group. But nowadays with, Shark Tank and, these events also, right? We are also part of that culture, right? Now it's a thing, and especially in consumer brands. And it's a given, right? Because if you're building a consumer brand, you want to be visible, right? So what Shantanu has done with, let's say, Bombay Shaving, it's brilliant, right? I mean, taking Bombay Shaving Company to a different level because of his podcast, right? What do you think about that? It's not correlated, but just your thoughts because you have not been very out there.
I know.
But profile building has now become a thing for founders also.
But I am not interested in that.
No, but what do you think about it? I mean, is it
what I think about is that, it's like take Shashank. It takes a certain character.
Absolutely.
First of all, you have to be good at it. I'm not good at it. Shashank is tremendous in it. He built the brand around himself. But Revant is not like that.
Right.
So you don't see Revant as a...
absolutely.
So there are all kinds. Other brands... So the one problem I think with that, and Shashank is yesterday, in fact, I was in Goa speaking to his team.
They had an offsite?
They had an offsite, yeah. So he asked me to come and talk to the team. The thing is, how do you scale it? I want Rebel to be alive when I'm long gone, like
Absolutely.
when I'm like dead,
Absolutely.
and next 100 years. But then if I build Rebel around me, that's not going to happen, right? Because like if you think about, like you were saying, Apple was about jobs, but then you needed someone else who came and created that impact. So it's not a black and white answer. In the moment, obviously it's great for the brand, right? But if you think really long arc of time, I'm not sure what is the right answer, because you see both types. Like Disney, for example, it was about Walt Disney for like 50 years, but then there was Bob Iger, his book The Ride of a Lifetime. It's one of the best books ever written. He talks about how the company became what it is beyond Disney.
Right.
So first of all, I'm not good at it. Second, I want Rebel. I don't even want Rebel to be known. I want our brands to be known.
Right.
So, and I can't be Behrouz and Faasos at the same time. That will be counterproductive,
Right.
because Behrouz is Royal Biryani, Faasos is Desi Wraps. I can't be both.
I think different use cases, right?
Yeah,
I
and
think
different positions.
Yeah.
We
I
have
think-
other biryani brands people don't know, but so that's why personally, Rebel, it's important that brands become larger than either me or Rebel.
Absolutely. I think if you are doing it for the right reason, I think it's great. But I also feel that the reverse is also true, that if you're not doing it, it's bad because the ecosystem needs it. So I think you need to do more of it so that people can learn from you and see you. And
I write, so I have a Substack news,
I know.
and some people have started subscribing
right,
it. So.
Right. But I think the fact that when people see you, I think you can write and people will follow that and all of that. But they always are in awe. Acha yaar, ye to bahut matlab big shot hai koi. He's a rock star. But when they see you, and I've seen this, that's why I'm telling it. I think that is one of my objectives. It's not like we don't do these fireside chats because I want to call someone big and all of that, right? That's not the objective. We call people because I believe that people who have made it inspire a lot more people in the audience, because it's just in the mindset, right? And the whole world will tell you it is not possible, it is not doable. Are job kyun chhod rahe ho, ye kyun kar rahe ho? In our times though, we did not get flats on rent, right? Because if you were an entrepreneur, no one gave you flat on rent, right? So good for you folks that times are changing, right? It's getting much and much better. But I think it's a long way to go, and I think success stories are very important for the ecosystem. So I think it cuts both sides. Any extremes are not good, I feel.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
I think if you're doing it for the right reason, I think you should do it. And even if you're not doing it, you should still do it so that more people can benefit out of it. Before we move on, I would like you to talk about your brands. I think that is something we missed completely. So after Faasos, how did that brand journey happen? I think now you control more than 10, 15 of your own brands. And now you have licensed brands. So how did that journey play out? Beyond roles, how did you expand? How did you figure out these categories? Because I think most founders in the food space are trying to figure out their menu, right? And you have figured out not just the menu, but so many brands in the platform and all of that. So would you like to talk about that a bit? How did the brand journeys go ahead? Because this room is full of people building brands. So how do you build?
So
many brands?
again, the unobvious insight for us was that people look for different brands on those 4 quadrants, like single sub value. If you're ordering from your nearby dosa place, you probably won't order the same brand when friends are over at your place. If you try to push that, people will be like, you can only be in luxury or you can be value. You can't be both. Like same brand cannot be both. So the idea was that all our brands, so each of our brands have a brand manager, and the brand manager's job is to put the brand in the right box and keep it there. Like Behrouz is group serve luxury. Like last week we did an order for Amazon, 5,000, the biryani capital.
Right.
But when the Amazon get together was happening, everybody wanted Behrouz because it gave that experience.
Wow. Guys, I think that deserves a clap.
And there was one more, like last month we did a Behrouz order of 20,000 biryanis for Indian Navy in Colaba. All the families of the naval officers, etc. It was a big thing, So we want to position Behrouz there. If we launch a 100 rupee biryani for Behrouz, we will lose that. Because then people will say, "Acha, Behrouz sasta hai," and whatever it is,
That's why you have multiple brands of biryani.
That's why we have other brands of biryani, which are lower priced, different ingredients, whatever. Behrouz has top end of the thing. That's how we thought about brands. Like where in the customer's life the brand is positioned, but people start like that, and then growth tapers. You'll say, "Arey, iska bhav ghata dete hain," but
Right.
then you kill it.
Right.
And then the advantage that we have, we are not a one-trick pony, So if Behrouz in 1 year doesn't grow, it's fine. There are other brands that will grow. During COVID, we saw that. All our luxury brands grew because people are at home, Behrouz, but Lunchbox, which is our
Office brand.
meals brand, office brand, that was killed. We could have reduced Lunchbox prices, but that would not have solved the purpose because the mission is gone. When the offices came back, Lunchbox had its growth moment again. So if you position your brands and if you stick to it, whatever happens, I'm not going to dilute this brand. That I think is the most important.
That's the
thing.
definition of a brand. Actually.
That's the definition of a brand. That it reduces decision-making complexity.
Cognitive, yeah.
That if I'm having a party, I want biryani, I should order Behrouz. Whatever.
Absolutely.
Behrouz is still small. It's a 350 crore brand. So it's not like it's 10,000 crore. But ठीक है. But we have two other brands which are more than 100 crore biryani brands.
Wow. Okay.
Each of them. So this is what, we were struggling with Behrouz in South because South had a typical type of biryani. So we launched Thalaiva, which is a very cheeky name, but totally South, spicier and all of that. And that brand we launched beginning of last year, it's already crossed 100 crore annual run rate. Because again, positioned very sharply, this is your everyday South biryani with a little bit of Rajnikant.
That works. That works. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But is it that easy? Because I think in D2C we had all these roll-up plays happening, right? So we had Thrasio model in D2C where Mesa and a lot of these players came in to acquire brands, but all of them failed because the conclusion was like HUL has been able to be a brand factory, but that also takes certain skill sets and discipline and
See, I think my fundamental belief is you need an operating system. HUL has the operating system of distribution. They are already in a million kiranas and it's all sorted.
Right.
You plug the brand on the distribution, supply chain is sorted, the brand playbook is there, people understand these things. That is not same as collecting disparate brands without the operating system. And people Thrasio had this idea that Amazon marketing is the platform, right? But that doesn't work because every brand has to stand on its own and has to be thought about differently. You don't control that platform. Absolutely. Yeah.
But when it comes to brand building, who thinks about
See, we have two brand teams. One is which we call a sustaining brand team. These are typically structured like Unilever, which is every brand manager has one or two brands. Like there is a Behrouz, like a category brand manager who manages, and one or two people, Behrouz and a couple of other biryani brands, same with pizza, etc. So that's one structure. The other is we have a brand factory, this is a group of 2-3 people who are always coming up with new ideas. Every Wednesday at Rebel in Bombay, of our main office, it's a food experiment day, like massive spread, sometimes Mexican, sometimes, Lebanese, etc. All sorts of experiments keep going on. The good thing about our business is our marginal cost of launching a brand is zero. Almost zero because of the platform. So if we think of a Mexican brand, we launch it, see whether the customers are loving it, whether we're making money, etc. If it works, we scale it. Doesn't, we shut it down. And there is always 20 brands or concepts which are run by this brand factory. So this is, and then once a brand is launched by a brand factory, like Thalaiva was launched by the brand factory, reach 50 crore, then it comes to the other side, which is now a brand manager, dedicated brand manager will have to, build it, grow it.
Interesting, right? Very interesting. I think Very interesting. I think the way to build a platform. I think that's the key here. I think when we all D2C founders think about building something large, and I think most D2C brands are also becoming platforms now with Revant also, right? I mean, there are multiple. You'll do a men's brand, then you do a kids brand, then a women's brand. So I think this is a very.
I think it's important to find the operating system synergy, because what you're trying to do is the marginal cost of launching another brand has to come down.
It's the same warehousing, same logistics, same a lot of infrastructure is very similar, right? And I think the playbook.
Also thinking.
Yeah.
If you have a deep consumer insight team, that consumer insight team can spawn many brands because there will be many insights.
Right.
That can be so we have a team called Culinary Innovation Center. There are 15 chefs. They are always thinking about,
What next
what next from a culinary point of view, like not from
R&D, pure R&D.
pure R&D, like this semaglutide, like how can we do something around protein and GLP in restaurant food, So, yeah, if you have that team like that, it's a great piece.
Amazing. So guys, with that I'll end my session, but if you have any questions, let's pick few of them. Please go ahead. If you can just briefly introduce yourself, what do you do, and then ask your question.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, Jaydeep. Great session. I'm Abhishek Sarvate. I have a food brand for kids called Nubu Foods. My question to you is regarding consumers, right? So now you did mention about different brands and also about different, like thinking of consumer in terms of event, let's say. So how do you position your consumer, let's say somebody from Mumbai, because I ordered a lot of Faasos in my bachelor days, right? So, and somebody from Banaras, right? So very different kind of backgrounds, affordability, everything, right? So how do you think of consumers in different cohorts and then serve them even with the same brand and the same timeline with different price points, etc.?
Actually, the price point is not that different because the ticket size is not like, break your bank kind of ticket size. Like a Faasos would be $150 average, maybe even lower than that. So typically our price points don't change by market. The core of the brand doesn't change by market. Like we had an option to create a South Indian version of Behrouz, but we didn't do it. Because if you tweak with that core, and India is a very mobile country, like you'd be surprised how many people, we've seen people ordering from Kurmangla because he stays there, ordering from Whitefield because he works there, or same customer ordering from Delhi because he's traveling there. A lot of Banaras guys are in Bombay, working, or Bangalore, or, Hyderabad. Then they're going back. COVID actually, sort of accelerated this. My father for the first time used a food app during COVID, And so the India is, in terms of habits, are becoming more homogeneous than we can believe. And we are seeing it ourselves. But still there are, on the edges, you need to be different. Like for example, in our biryanis in South, we have our portion of rice is higher because it's a rice-eating part of the country. We have a spicier variety in that market. So keep the core. It's like how McDonald's would do it when they come to India. They will keep the core, but they will also have a Maharaja Mac or a Macaloo Tikki. But they won't not have McChicken, right? So to build a brand, you need to have the core, but then change on the edges. Also, some brands do better in one part of the country than another. Like Behrouz, as I was saying, does better in West and North versus South and East, because East and South both have very core sort of their own biryani, like Calcutta biryani and and Hyderabadi biryani, etc. So these exist. And then there is another thing that we've discovered is the festivals. It's a humongous force multiplier in India. And like, for example, Navratri was there and we launched Navratri Thali. And you can't imagine how many of those we sell because the North Indian staying in Bangalore, uska mummy subah bola aaj veg khana hai, and now this guy is figuring out Navratri Thali kahan milega. The only place he gets is in from Rebel brands. So across India, we see during Navratri, the Navratri thali just goes through the roof. During Ramadan, Halim, goes through the roof, irrespective of region, people, etc. Because it gives you an occasion to eat something that you've not eaten, like Halim. It's not only people who observe Ramadan, but also everybody. Like, people who want to know what it is. During the Eid, the day of the Eid, our biryani sales just goes through the roof. It's not like India suddenly has more Muslim population or something. Because everybody has it because it's a festival. Same with Christmas plum cake, Same with Valentine's Day. We launched a couple of years back heart-shaped pizzas on Valentine's Day. It was a small problem at like small die cutter at our kitchen. That's it. But massive uptake. So piggybacking on festivals is another typical India thing that we have realized. And now we are also doing regional like Onam, like Poila Boishakh for Bengal. Lots of Ugadi, Ganpati, all sorts of things. Like we launched Modak during Ganpati, just 7 days, and so on. Sorry, a long answer, but food is such an interesting place, and there's always something that you can go with.
Awesome. Please go ahead. Guys, we'll just take the last question. I'm so sorry, but you guys can catch Jaydeep if he stays around. Do you plan to stay around for a bit?
Hey Jaydeep.
5-10 minutes.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Mahadev this side. I am associated with Rewind Engage and Rewind Trust. We work with the D2C brand to connect to their real consumers and reduce dependencies from a platform like Amazon, Flipkart and Quick Commerce. My question to you is, I was just going through and I love Behrouz. I didn't know this is coming from Rebels, by the way, and that's your success story also, I believe. While I was thinking and you were mentioning that you have multiple brands, can we expect in future you launching some aggregator where I can order from any of your brand and you can own that entire delivery? Right now I'm sure you have a lot of dependency on like delivery partners like Zomato and Swiggy. Would you expect or can consumers expect you having your own brand serving all of this so that you have more control over it?
So there are two parts to the question. One is the dependence bit. I just want to say that, outside of Domino's, McDonald's, maybe Pizza Hut, KFC, there are no pan-India companies, food companies. And India is a brand-stuffed company. And in any value chain, the rarer asset gets more value. It's not always distribution. So Saudi Arabia has more value out of oil. So brand owners in India extract a lot of value. That's one. Secondly, we have an app called Eat Sure. It's called Food Court on an app, and I can't disclose the exact percentage, but a big part of our revenue comes from that. Exactly to your insight, when like 4 people are there, someone wants a biryani, someone wants a pizza, everybody wants a dessert. In Swiggy, you have to place 3 orders. They'll come at different time. They'll charge different delivery charges, but on Eat Sure you can order all of our brands together. Also Wendy's, also ITC, also Naturals Ice Cream, because these are in our kitchens. And a significant part of that app is this multi-brand orders. So that's something that we are building. But we would probably never be a logistics company or an aggregator, so to speak, because we believe we love food, making, processing, building food is what excites us.
And not just food, but brands.
Food brands, yeah.
You're in the brands business.
Yeah.
Basically. You're not in the delivery business.
Yeah.
Right? No, I think that's a great clarity of thought.
In fact, very close by, we put our second food court on High Street in Baner. It's called Eat Sure, and there is another one in Law College Road. If you guys, sorry, I'm not selling anything, just in case if you are.
I think Jaydeep, we all are hungry and we want to try all your.
Yeah,
brands.
if you want to try, Law College Road, right next to the Film Institute, and Baner in this Balevari High Street. There is, so you can check it out.
Superb. Guys, I'm so sorry with this. We'll have to end this session, but if you can catch Jaydeep, he's here for 5-10 minutes. And please go ahead and catch him if you can. Thanks a lot, Jaydeep. Pleasure hosting you. And I think what we were expecting from this session, We have got more than that. Thanks for being so open and transparent and sharing all your insights. For me personally, also, it was a great learning curve. It was a lot of refresher because I know your journey already. But I think just going through it again, it just makes so. I don't think it's non-obvious at all, guys. I think it's very, very obvious, right? And that's the genius, right? To make something non-obvious obvious in hindsight. So congrats on that, and I think a lot of respect for folks like you who have built something great. And I'm sure a lot of people here will carry it back and will dream bigger and will want to build something bigger. On that note, my fireside chat in Chandigarh was with the Lahori Jeera founder, and one of the audience question was, what would you have done better if you were younger, right? And the answer to that was, I would have thought bigger, right? So today he does 50 million bottles every day. They make 50 million bottles every day, and he said, I underestimated myself. I thought कि मैं इतना नहीं बेच पाऊंगा, मुझे इसका 10x बनाना चाहिए था या इसका 100x बनाना चाहिए था. So just dream bigger, and I think that is the message to everyone here, that if he can do it, you can do it, and I'm sure he can do it 10x more and you can do it 100x more. So thanks a lot, Jaydeep.
Thank you.
Pleasure hosting you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's just take a photograph. Guys, do we have the goodie bag for Jaydeep? So Jaydeep, this is our famed goodie bag from the community brands. This has samples of about 20-25 brands, and would love you to try them and share your feedbacks. And if you like any particular brand, you want to invest in any of them, please tell me. I saw your post. You have started investing in brands in your area of passion.
Very small.
Yeah. So guys, if any of you are looking for angel investment and it's anything to do with performance, sports, right? Am I not right? So you can catch him if you're building anything in athleisure, performance, sports, health. He's the guy. So yeah, congrats. And
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy this. Thank you.
of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.